Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cluttered Workbench. Today I thought I'd talk about wire strippers. Um, Everybody has a use for them, especially if you're doing car wiring or electronics. There are so many different kinds of wire strippers out there, and for about 10 years I did in-car camera installations for the agency I work with, the dash cams for the police officers and deputies. And I'm also a certified emergency vehicle technician and learned how to put in light bars and emergency lighting and stuff. And every day I was stripping wires, putting connectors on them. And today I just share with you some of the different types of strippers that are available, what works for you, what might not work for you, and some basic costs. Prices change constantly, so I'm just giving you a rough estimate. And especially if you're doing automotive work, you're working with a lot of different gauges of wire, and I found that the automatic wire strippers work really, really well for what we're doing. One of the most common are these guys right here. I got mine 10 years ago off a tool truck. Company's called Matco. They were yellow. They were very similar to this. This is a cheap pair of Chinese ones I bought off of Amazon, and they're not the best. They work really, really well, especially for larger gauge wires. You just take your wire. This is 14 gauge wire. You put it in here. You adjust your stop for what kind of depth you want or length of strip. You put it in here like so. Squeeze down, pop, and it strips off the length of wire that you want. These are kind of janky. They're a little bit stiff, and the jaws on these, I don't know if you can see that real well. They got a, let me zoom in just a touch. You can see the jaws here, these little shiny steel things. When you squeeze down, the plastic jaws here grab the wire and hold it steady. And as you pull in, they close down, pulls off the insulation, and ejects the spent casing, basically the insulation bit right here. I don't know if you can see that. And there's an adjustable tension, which really doesn't work that well in this case, but these jaws just don't align perfectly straight. They're a little cattywampus. I'm a southerner in the United States, so cattywampus is a word. These are still kind of stiff, but the more you use them, they get a little looser. They work really, really well. These run about, if you buy them on a tool truck, they're about 20 bucks, and you buy them on Amazon, they're about $8 to $10. But they work pretty good. If you're an electrician, most of the guys will be using these, whether you're an apprentice or a journeyman. These are made by Klein Tools. They're US made. These have various die sizes here, that's what I'll call them. And from stranded size is 22 American wire gauge to 12 American wire gauge. But if it's solid, it goes from 20 to 10 gauge. Electricians use solid core wire for residential. Usually they're using 14-2 Romex or non-metallic or 12 gauge. These work very similar. They got a nice sharp blaze on them, and this is 14 gauge, so I'll put it in the 14 stranded. You close down on them, you give it a little bit of a twist and a pull, and this is pretty tough PVC jacket, but you can see It strips off the insulation, doesn't nick the wires. Main thing is you don't want to nick or cut off any of the extra conductors here in the strands. You lose a strand or two, you lose your ampacity or current carrying capability of the wire. But for solid gauge, and when I'm doing electronics, I tend to use these quite a bit, but I've got a different set of Kleins that are for smaller gauge wire, from like 30 gauge to 20 gauge. But yeah, these work really well. If you're ever a fan of Clive, BigClive.com, or his channel, he uses this type of wire strippers a lot. These are fantastic for production. They have the jaws here. I don't know how well you can see that. Closed down. They're very thick jaws. You can see right here. These are great for a production environment where you got to strip off wires that are all the same gauge, because you have to set the stop, and then you got a lock screw right here. These do work really well. You just clamp down on the wire once you got them set. Give it a good squeeze and a pull. Sometimes you got to twist it a little bit. But yeah, it does a nice job stripping the wires. But these are mainly for production. If you're working with small gauge wire from like a 22 or 24, and then you have to, pop down to a 14 gauge wire, these can be a bit fiddly. That's just the way it is. Let's try and see. When I was a kid and playing around with electronics, when most kids were out playing sports, I was an electronic nerd and did a bunch of other different things. I was the geek. I did a lot of wire stripping with these old guys, and these are about, I don't know, $4 or $5. But they're difficult to adjust because you got a little set screw right here, and that would adjust the stop. I don't recommend these because, again, they're basically set for, one thickness of wire, and most wire, the insulation, you can have two 18 gauge wires stranded for, say, and the insulation will be thicker or thinner on different ones, and you have to adjust these constantly. But yeah, they'll work. I just don't recommend them. These are the infamous auto parts place ones. You can also buy them at big box stores and hardware stores. They have your wire strippers down here. This is the cool part. This is what these are really good for, is taking a machine screw. You can thread it in there, open these jaws up, and say you got an 832 threaded machine screw. You can put it in there, screw it in, a lot of force, clamp it down. It'll cut off excess length for you, and then when you back it out, it'll rechase the threads. And then it has wire crimpers up here, but they don't do anything really well. I don't recommend them. These are about $6 or $8. I use these a lot. These are made by Ideal. They're called Strip Masters. These work really, really well, as long as you know your wire gauge. Let me zoom down a bit on this. Whoops, wrong way. I don't know if you can see it. Let me bring these down. You have your American wire gauge and various dies. You have 16, 14, 12, 10, 18 to 20, And then down below it has the solid wire. This is solid core up here, and this is stranded down below. And it goes from 14 to 8 gauge, and solid core goes from 16 down to 18 and 20. And all you do is you take this, I know this is a 14 gauge, I'll put it in the 14, and here you can see when you clamp down, the jaws close. The problem I have with these, if you do it too slow, it will kind of mash up the leads here, because of the way when you close like that, this back part here doesn't release. So you got to do it kind of quick. You go, okay, I've got 14, turn your 14, and you do it quick, it just pops off. But if you do it too slow to watch the action, this releases late. So a lot of times it'll pull the wire back and smash it against the dies here. But yeah, these work really good. I've been using these things for years. But in automotive, you got to do a lot of them quick, fast. I've found two that work very, very well. For my needs, these are pretty expensive. These are Knipex automatic wire strippers, and they're kind of the best of both worlds. They got real nice sharp jaws in them. They're V-shaped, which I don't. There we go. V-shaped jaws in them. And then you've got your adjustable stop, which, since this is German, on this side is in millimeters. So we'll do, these are a bit stiff. I'll set it for about 6 millimeters. On the other side, it's nothing. So you kind of have to guess. I had another pair here by Yokari. I don't know what I did with them. Nah. But these are great. You just put the wire in there against the stop. Bingo, it cuts the wire, well, the insulation, and it has a nice pair of wire cutters up here at the top. They work really well. These are expensive. These are about $40, and it cuts from 24 to 10 American wire gauge. These are the Knipex 1262-180, and made in Germany. Very good. But overall, I have found that these here are the absolute best multi-purpose automatic wire strippers. These are made by Vice Grip, otherwise known as Irwin, made in America. They strip from 10 to 24 gauge wire. These even cut 14-2 or 12-2 Romex. I like these because Klein makes a pair, but they've got a metal stop gauge, and it tends to flop because of the weight of it. And if you're holding these up, it'll tend to flop over. But these Irwins, it's plastic and it's fairly stiff. Holds itself in place quite well, and you can fold it down out of the way. So you desire like that, or you can put it up like this. These work on a unique actuation. I've got these all adjusted. There's a tension screw here, but when you squeeze down, the left jaws here hold the wire, And then as you squeeze further, the right jaws come down, hold the wire, and then it just pulls the insulation off. And the blades on them are quite sharp. You just put your wire in. Okay, I want to do this length, like so. Boom, it cuts it off. And the nice thing is, it'll cut, let's see here. You can leave it where the insulation doesn't come all the way off, for example. And you can twist the wires just by leaving the insulation on, and then pull it off. You get a nice neat strip. It doesn't ding any of the conductors. It's got a nice sharp knife on it. Whoops, missed. The blades are fairly sharp. It does have crimpers down here. I don't find they're very handy, especially where they're located. You don't get the leverage. But for 25 bucks, you can buy the vice grips. These tend to be American made, or they are American made. And they do very, very well. But you can buy them cheaper online with some Chinese brand. And they do the same thing, and they do it well. And I got this set for, if you put it all the way here to the end, it's a default 1/4 inch, which is great for terminal connections, things like that. Excuse me. But overall, I found I use these a lot, especially if I have to do some automotive work. I don't have to guess what die I need to put this. This is a 14 gauge wire, this is a 12 gauge. I can strip Romex with them. I don't have any Romex around here. One of these days I'll do a video. You can do Romex, cut the sheathing off, do the conductors, boom, boom, boom. You don't even have to think about it. You can do it quite quickly. But I just wanted to share these are the different kinds of strippers that are available. Pardon me from knocking my camera. All depends on what you need and what your budget is. I do highly recommend, I don't care if you're from Canada or overseas in Europe, if you find either a good quality German made one, yeah, they cost a bit more, or an American made one, yes, they cost a bit more than the Chinese ones. You'll find that the fit and finish and the machining on them is much better. Things like these Kleins, they've got a good warranty on them. Most of these are lifetime. Some of them are 10-year. These Kleins, I absolutely love them. Let me show you my other set of Kleins. If I can get them in my holder. These are the ones I use for a lot for electronics. These are 30 gauge solid or 32 gauge stranded to 22 gauge stranded to 20 gauge solid. And then you've got these two holes here if you're doing what they call a shepherd's hook for electrical. Put that little bend in it to go under a screw terminal. That's what those are for. These are nice. They got a nice lock on them, a good spring, very sharp blades, handy dandy little needle nose section here so you can twist wires, or if you're doing electrical work you want to pre-twist your wires to put your morettes on there. Yeah, they work really good. And also designed for electronics are these guys here. These are CHP, made in Italy. These are branded under or sold under the Heiko name, and they're also from one side you got your metric gauges or your American wire gauge, and on the other side you got your American wire gauge and again your millimeters. 0.02 to .08 or 20 to 30 American wire gauge. And these are quite well made too. I found the Kleins just work better for me. But that's about it for the different types of wire strippers. You just, I'm not going to tell you, what brand to buy or anything like that, but if you're doing you want something that's going to stay sharp and last a long time for automotive, if these work for you, try them out. They've been around for years and years and years. These are, again, ideal. They're called Strip Masters, made in the US. It's die-cast zinc. But yeah, I found these work really, really well. This style, awesome. These are a little spendy. You really don't need these. But for these and these run about the same price. No, that's bueno. These are my loaner ones. So if you got the neighborhood kid coming down wanting to do a car stereo in his Honda, loan these out. If you don't get them back, don't worry about them. These are more for a production professional environment. They're expensive, they really work well, but again, you got to keep fine-tuning them so you don't nick your conductors. But the blades on these will stay sharp forever. They're just very well made. The handles on these are insulated. They're rated for 1,000 volts, and they actually test them to 10,000 volts. These are called Expert, and I believe these are made by a company like Viha or Vera, but I found these and they're okay. I'm not going to throw them out the window. These are like 1960s type wire strippers. Yeah, they work, but again, you got to keep adjusting them for different insulation thicknesses, and they're good wire cutters. I mean, you can just take a piece of wire like this, put it in there, or if you need to just make a little nip, they're okay. But I don't recommend them. And if you're doing a lot of automotive like work that I did, these come in really handy because you can get them into tight spaces and just, you got an inline splice you got to do underneath the dashboard and you're upside down on your back. You just need to pop in there, pop one off. Yeah, the problem is they'll mash the insulation because of the way these jaws press down. But after a while they get kind of smooth. And there's a little metal insert, it looks like in here, a little plastic one, that helps grab the insulation so it can snap. But yeah, these work really good. I wouldn't use them on fine wire like 24 gauge or something like that because it tends to just brutalize everything. Matter of fact, I got a little bit of, this is some silicone. Let me just show you real quick. And I apologize if I'm rambling. It's Sunday, I'm tired. Got to go back to work tomorrow, which sucks. This is 24 gauge. This is silicone jacketed wire. But you put that in there. And you can tell it kind of smudges up the wire, but yeah, I did it all right. I pulled a couple of conductors out, but I love silicone wire. It's great for automotive work because it's just so flexible. And in automotive, you want to use stranded wire over solid core because of the vibration, the motion of the car. And well, anyways, I hope this helps. If you have any questions about it, just drop me a note in the doobly-doo down below. Sorry, Ave, I'm stealing your tagline. Yeah, I hope this helps. And if it doesn't, well, sorry to waste your time. You know. Anyways, have a good afternoon. I'm going to do another video here shortly on proper crimping, because I did a lot of that in my career. All right, y'all have a good day now. Peace out.